In the age of technology, the greatest power belongs to the company that can unify the world's most chaotic data. Palantir is that company. Everyone's heard of Palantir, but nobody seems to know what it really does. Is it an AI company, a data harvest, a military operation? Does it even work? They claim to sell a solution to chaos. But what does that really mean? What sort of infrastructure is Palantir built up, and by whose help? We will answer all questions in which I hope to be a multi-part series. We will outline all of Palantir, from the infrastructure to the supposed people creating and controlling it, and a more grand picture for its effect on the citizens of the world. The first part will be outlining Palantir's infrastructure, but before we look deep into its core, we need to outline its legitimacy inside of the US government, starting with what they call FedRamp, FedRamp High, and FedStart. The Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, known as FedRamp, was established by the Office of Management and Budget through a December 8, 2011 memorandum from the Federal Chief Informant Officer. According to them, it's to safely accelerate the adoption of cloud computing products and services by federal agencies, and to help those agencies avoid duplicating efforts by offering a consistent and reusable authorization process. So basically this seems like one of the first steps, as they said, to adopt cloud computing into the federal agencies in our government. Then in March 2025, FedRamp 20X was announced. So basically this is when FedRamp gets modernized for the machine. FedRamp goes from PDF documents to real-time machine-readable data streams. So there's no more PDFs for humans to read, it's just something that a machine can read. So the machines interacting within the FedRamp atmosphere have a universal grammar to them for security purposes. So it basically ensures that all the machines speak only language that feds are legally allowed to trust and I guess use, quote unquote, legally. So that brings us to FedRamp High. FedRamp High is the strictest unclassified tier. It's reserved for data that if breached, it would cause severe or catastrophic damage to national security, public safety, or financial stability. So Palantir achieved FedRamp High authorization on December 3rd, 2024. The authorization covers all of Palantir's product offerings, which we're going to cover soon. Now, because of this authorization, all Palantir technology products are allowed to be used in whatever case the US government wants, because they've achieved FedRamp High authorization. So the result of this isn't just Palantir selling some cool software. In action, it lets feds not worry about security and they can just feed the machine that Palantir has provided. So now we have FedStart. FedStart is a Palantir software as service. It offers other companies like Anthropic, ChatGPT, other specialized AI firms. It lets them run their apps inside of Palantir's already accredited FedRamp High environment. So traditionally, FedRamp High takes millions of dollars and up to 2 years to be allowed entry, but FedStart reduces this to weeks. So instead of a company waiting to be approved by the US government entry, Palantir basically becomes a landlord of the federal AI ecosystem. Companies don't have to build their own secure fortress to process the data and keep it safe. They can just rent a room inside of Palantir's. So FedStart uses Apollo, which is Palantir's deployment engine, which we're going to dive into later. It uses Apollo to contain these third-party companies' software. It ensures every tool used by the government is filtered through Palantir's infrastructure. By September 30, 2026, FedRamp will require machine-readable authorization packages. No more paper, no PDFs, everything will be ran through the machine automatically. Security is no longer a human checking a box. It's going to be an automated system running through Palantir's system, constantly verifying everything is compliant. Palantir doesn't just comply with the rules, they define the automation of the rules. They turned the red tape of Washington into an API that only they know how to use correctly. FedRamp is the law of the land, but FedStart is the title deed. So by the time an agency or company realizes they need AI, Palantir has already built the only safe room where that AI is allowed to live. They haven't just captured the data, they've captured the environment itself. To use the world's best tech in 2026, you must pass through the Palantir gate. FedRamp High is the maximum level for civilian agencies. like the IRS, the DOE, FDA, etc. But the Department of War don't just care about standardized security, they care about mission survivability. The Department of War have unique threats that a civilian library or a tax office don't face. So this is where the Defense Information Systems Agency, to be referred to as DISA, steps in. They take the FedRamp High package and enhance it by adding specific Department of War overlays. So DISA has a hierarchy of impact levels. There's DISA IL2, which is basically the same as FedRamp. It's used for public websites or just non-sensitive internal data. IL4 is the baseline for most military businesses. It covers data that isn't classified, but it does require protection. Things like payroll, health records, legal documents. And then we have IL5 is the highest level for unclassified data. It's reserved for systems where a breach could have a severe or catastrophic impact on military missions. It's the level where most of the AIP Foundry, which we're going to describe soon, lives day to day. IL6 is the war shield. It's the classified information. DISA IL6 lives in a separate area strictly for classified secret data. What makes it so different isn't just the passwords, it's the infrastructure itself. The IL6 systems do not touch the public internet. They are tethered to the Secret Internet Protocol Router Network, which they call the SIPR net. It's basically just a secure internet for the US Department of War and Department of State, made up of computer networks. It ensures that even if a civilian cloud is hacked, the IL6 environment is physically and logically unreachable from the outside. Only US citizens with a secret clearance have access to the information in this layer. But in February 12th of 2026, a new breakthrough happened. Palantir achieved PFCS forward authorization. So this authorization makes it so that the DISA war shield isn't just stuck inside a massive data center. It allows DISA to move onto any hardware. So you can take an IL6 accredited brain, that brain being one of Palantir's systems, and put it inside a server, a Navy ship, a command tent, wherever. It's the first time a secret cloud intelligence has been truly portable. Historically, when a military unit wanted to use new software, they had to endure a security marathon, which could last years of just audits to prove the code could withstand the world's most sophisticated cyber attacks. So Palantir has effectively bypassed this. They provide a pre-configured EMAS, which stands for Enterprise Mission Assurance Support Service record. So they provide the EMAS record, and they allow units to basically just inherit Palantir's existing DISA authorization. So the unit doesn't have to prove the software is safe because DISA already does. It turns year-long waiting periods into 2-week deployments. So with DISA IL6 and EMAS, software can be deployed onto the battlefield safely and securely in an extremely fashionable amount of time. So the regulatory work we've just gone over, it's not just about security, it's about building the legal tunnel that allows raw data from the outside world to flow safely into the secret interior of the machine quickly. So we've shown the room is safe, now let's look at the sensors that are plugging into it. Starting with SpaceX and Starshield. This is part of the nervous system of Palantir. The Starshield satellite constellation provides the low latency, encrypted, high-speed rail that allows a sensor in the middle of the Pacific to talk to the brain in Washington, D.C. instantly. Starshield allows agencies to plug in their own sensors, so depending on what a sect of the government would like to track or triangulate, they can swap in different sensors. As well, companies can install SpaceX's terminal that can just be bolted into other companies' satellites, which effectively tethers the other companies into the Starshield mesh. On Starshield satellites, you might find high-res optical cameras, you might find SAR, ground-moving target indicators, infrared sensors, heat seekers, so they turn satellites basically into a global smoke detector. You might find signal intelligence modules, which capture RF emissions, tactical data links. So in 2026, Starshield buses carry Link 16 payloads. This is basically a plug-and-play radio module that allows the satellite to talk directly to fighter jets, Navy ships, and ground troops. We have high-res imagery, They're getting stratosphere data, weather stations, so things just like ocean buoys, the power grid telemetry. So with partnerships with companies like GE Aerospace, the machine is ingesting real-time health data from jet engines and industrial turbines. So, I mean, every port, every oil refinery, every moving cargo ship on Earth, I mean, any little pinpoint detail, it's being tracked. So with all these sensors monitoring the whole world, we need to see what it feeds into. So that's where Titan comes in. Titan is basically the true retina of the system. It was developed by a powerhouse team of companies: L3Harris, Northrop Grumman, Anduril. Titan is the Army's first AI-defined ground station. It intercepts the raw noise of the world and translates it into the digital language that the GAIA warshield understands. So because Titan uses Palantir's Edge Intelligence, which includes Palantir's sensor inference platform known as the SIP, it uses sensor fusion, and it guarantees that any piece of data feeding into Palantir's core is quote-unquote correct. The Edge AI engine takes raw and conflicting data and cross-references them. If both sensors agree, then the engine fuses them into a single high-confidence object. So Titan doesn't just receive data and translate, it reasons right at the edge. It'll identify a military tank, a supply chain bottleneck, and at the moment of discovery, it strips away the lag of the traditional data processing. So a floating object is nothing without a story. To give this data point a memory, it is moved from the edge into the Foundry refinery. While Titan sees the object, Foundry defines it. It takes the high-confidence signal and slots it into Palantir's Ontology. The Ontology is essentially the master library of every person, place, and thing on Earth. In a traditional system, you have rows and columns. In Foundry, you have objects. A tank detected by a SpaceX Starshield satellite isn't just a set of GPS coordinates. Foundry automatically reaches into the state's archives and links that tank to its tail number, the fuel capacity, its ammunition type, and the military record of its commanding officer. So the result is that it transforms a single little data point into a structured, curable truth. By the time the piece of data reaches the Ontology, it has been stripped of its noise and dressed in context. As of today, the data flowing from the global mesh of sensors is far beyond human comprehension. So to map the entire planet in real time, it needs to be automated. This is where HyperAuto comes into play. HyperAuto is basically the sorting robot inside of the Palantir refinery that watches all the incoming data streams. So it's the part that moves the new data automatically to the correct slots and folders inside of the Ontology. If a new fleet of drones or a shipment of microchips joins the global mesh, HyperAuto integrates it into the Ontology, and therefore the United States is reality in minutes. The library is built the second a sensor sees the world. So with all this data that the retinas of Titan create, it all gets fed into GAIA. So GAIA is a living 3D digital mirror of the entire planet. It's not just a map, it's a digital reality. It has real-time GPS coordinates of every tracked vessel and SpaceX satellite, and it can overlay it with high-fidelity models of cities and critical energy assets. When you click a building in GAIA, you aren't just seeing a photo, you see a queryable history of everything to happen at those coordinates. Traditionally, software is easy to update when you're in a cloud data center, but in 2026, the environment feeding GAIA is a nightmare. If an update fails on a satellite, you can't just send in a technician to fix it, or a bad update that causes $1 billion brick. So the solution to this is Apollo. Apollo is a continuous delivery platform. It removes the human from the deployment of updates. Instead of a developer pushing an update to a tank, it puts a small AI agent inside the tank's computer. The AI agent looks at the software and tells itself, I have a new version available. Is the engine off? Battery full? Is the connection stable? The vehicle in a combat zone? Apollo won't update a system if it violates a constraint. In February of 2026, Apollo's power has been supercharged by the PFCS forward authorization. Apollo can now deploy GAIA IL-6 and the Palantir AIP which we are currently and will continue to outline, onto any hardware. From a NVIDIA or Dell AI factory to a tiny Qualcomm processor, Apollo is everywhere, and therefore Palantir is everywhere. Apollo uses a specialized engine called Rubix, which is Palantir's security layer. It ensures that every microservice Apollo deploys is wrapped in a security bubble. It apparently makes it impossible for a virus to spread from one part of the spine to another. Apollo allows a single person in a command center to manage a fleet of thousands of brains across the globe. Developers can test an update on a non-critical system before Apollo automatically promotes it to the critical important ones. If in one of these updates Apollo detects an update that does something like increasing power consumption, which could kill the battery, Apollo will automatically revert it to the previous version before any human notices. By using autonomous deployment, Palantir ensures the machine is always evolving, always patched, and always awake, no matter how far it is from a data center. Now, this is where the circle starts to close. Systems and Palantir write back to each other. Much of what we have explained previously lies in the Foundry. Foundry's first job is to connect everything. It sits behind all the main data ingestion sources and makes the data go from dirty to clean. Every data point fed into it is tracked. You can travel back to any second in history and see exactly what the Palantir machine knew in that moment. Foundry is where all the data streams are turned into objects. Foundry links all the objects and creates a full history of them. The tank isn't just a tank, it has a fuel level, ammo count, location, the crew, and that crew's history. Foundry also has a sandbox mode. You can change variables inside of the ontology. They can run all these variables and select the one with the best outcome to actually execute in real life. Foundry is also self-healing and self-building with Palantir's AIP logic. It monitors its own health. For example, if it detects a conflict like a satellite saying that a ship is in port A while the travel manifest says it's in port B, it automatically flags the anomaly and suggests resolution logic to itself and/or a human. Through the Apollo nervous system, these decisions are written back to the edge AI agents, sending encrypted commands directly to the Titan trucks, the SpaceX satellites, and the autonomous drones. The Foundry refinery has ceased to be just a library. It has become the global command center. The machine is no longer just observing the world, it is directing it. Foundry isn't just a diary, it is a control panel. Because the ontology is a digital mirror of the physical world, changing a status in the software triggers a real-world response. While Foundry handles the massive slow-moving strategic data, Gotham has been built for the regular day-to-day world. Gotham is the interface used by the FBI, CIA, and Special Forces. It is designed to connect the dots between leads, confidential reports, intercepted signals, camera, drone feeds. Gotham accelerates the sensor-to-action timeline. It takes the identified objects by Titan and cross-references it with known threats. If it finds a match, it will suggest a tactical response to a human. Gotham excels at what Foundry isn't meant to do. It takes data like a name from a social media post, a face from a CCTV feed, and instantly builds a 360-degree dossier by pulling from every public and secret database in the DISA IL6 cloud. It looks for anomalies. In the modern age, terrorism is dissociated. Small actors move independently to avoid detection. Gotham is designed to find the invisible threads that connect them. Imagine 3 individuals who have never met each other, have no social media presence, and no phone calls with each other. Actor A local, buys a specialized chemical. Foundry flags this because the transaction deviates from the standard industrial supply chain. Actor B rents a warehouse. Gotham's ontology automatically links this to a property that has been dormant for years. Actor C arrives at an international airport. Gotham uses commercial roaming data bought from global telecom aggregators or flight manifests shared from international security treaties, and it sees a device ID that was active in a specific foreign region that's now pinging the airport's Wi-Fi. These lines are drawn when Gotham cross-references the digital exhaust. It sees that Actor C's rental car GPS and Actor A's mobile signal have both touched the same coordinates at Actor B's warehouse within a specific window. They haven't called each other, they haven't shaken hands, but because they have all touched the same physical object, the warehouse, and the same logistical object, the chemical, Gotham fuses them into a single threat object. After the threat is fused, the suspect's location is pushed to the nearest agent's mobile device so they can intervene. Not after the explosion, but during its assembly. Gotham stops the event by seeing the logic of the attack before the attackers can execute it. Gotham is also a popular location to find the works of GAIA and vice versa. The targets that Gotham creates will appear on GAIA, overlaid with all the other data points we've spoken of previously. So, while the global mesh of sensors tracks physical objects, a crystal ball needs a different kind of sensor, the mirror of human intent. To do this, Palantir uses something known as Magritte. It is the gate of untrusted information. Magritte pulls in the billions of daily interactions from consumer LLMs such as Gemini, ChatGPT, or Grok within Palantir's AIP. These data streams are distilled into digital mirrors of sorts. Synthetic identities that model how populations are currently thinking, reacting, and what they desire. It is a high-fidelity map of the world's collective consciousness. Let's break this down. In Palantir's architecture, Magritte is the specialized service designed to bridge untrusted external networks, like the open internet, with trusted internal networks, like the DISA IL6. Magritte acts as a high-speed vacuum for APIs, companies like X, Reddit, LLMs. When a user makes a post or asks an LLM a question or queries an interaction, it often generates a public or semi-public digital footprint. Magritte ingests these footprints to map what the global population is curious about right now. For example, if 10 million people in a specific region suddenly ask an LLM something like what the best route is to the border, the intent of those queries is captured by the data scrapers and brokers that feed into Magritte's gate. The evidence for this is Palantir's work with the UK's NHS and the US Department of War. Their work frequently cites open source intelligence. Open source intelligence in the modern era is the collective output of LLM interactions and social discourse. As well, Palantir runs on Google Cloud, which Gemini runs on, and Microsoft Azure, which OpenAI's ChatGPT runs on. Under specific government contracts like the Maven Smart System, data sharing agreements allow for anonymized signal ingestion. Palantir can ingest anonymized search intent and LLM query clusters. Palantir's own marketing for their AIP machine highlights its ability to ingest and reason across unstructured data at an industrial scale. But because the internet is filled with noise and bots, the machine requires a hard truth filter of sorts to calibrate its simulations. This is Polymarket. Funded with $200 million from Peter Thiel, Polymarket, unlike a social media post, requires capital. It requires money. The thing humans exchange their lifespan for. Polymarket positions itself as a decentralized, real-time oracle of what people actually believe will happen. The Palantir AIP ingests these market odds to weight its own predictions. If the LLM sentiment suggests a riot is coming, but the Polymarket odds remain low, the machine investigates the gap. It uses the Polymarket as a reality check to ensure the digital mirrors aren't hallucinating. Before we get into the specifics of the healthcare layer, we must recognize we're going to look at the final most intimate frontier of sovereignty for humans. This is the data that until now had remained the only variable outside the reach of the silicon spine. But as of April 2026, the integration of real-time healthcare infrastructure is no longer an experiment. It is the definitive closing of the big tech loop that is forming. While the machine and its masters have already mapped the physical steel through systems like Titan and Gaia, and modeled the human sentiment through Magritte, the human body has remained the last mystery. By tethering the real-time biometric feed of things like IVAS, visual augmentation systems, and other wearables, and soon to be neurochips or other things alike, to the historical reservoirs of the NHS, CDC, and companies like Cardinal Health. The machine has bridged the distance between a human's will and their vitality. This to me is the final piece of the puzzle. Once the machine can cross-reference a person's cortisol levels with lifelong medical records in that person's digital mirror, the machine has achieved an all-encompassing, closed system of prophecy and command. Originally, a Microsoft project called HoloLens, Anduril Industries took it over and adapted it for the military. Now called IVAS, the helmet includes a computer that runs a lightweight version of Apollo Edge software. IVAS provides the user with sensors relevant to military purposes and includes a 3D HUD that projects the GAIA mirror directly to the soldier's retina. It's like a video game screen. Every frame the soldier sees is processed by AIP document intelligence. If a soldier sees a vehicle, the AI identifies the make, model, and everything relevant in milliseconds. As well as IVS, soldiers today use wearables that may monitor heart rate among other things. The Maven smart system can predict a platoon's combat effectiveness by monitoring sleep and stress data of the soldiers. It suggests rotations of platoons before the humans even feel exhausted. Extending to the civilian population, Palantir has a $450 million contract to run the UK's National Health Service federated data platform. It links patient records, hospital waiting lists, staff schedules, surgery capacity, medicine quantities, and everything in between. If you live in the UK, Palantir has access to all of your medical records. On the US side of things, it's not as far yet gone as UK, but Palantir is doing their best. Palantir and Cardinal Health, which are the 15th highest revenue generating company in the US, have a deep, multi-year partnership focusing on pharmaceutical and specialty solutions. Cardinal Health uses Foundry to manage their inventory of meds, from standard to novel medications. In 2026, Cardinal Health raised its fiscal outlook significantly, citing strategic progress in its pharmaceutical distribution, driven by the ability to predict demand spikes and supply bottlenecks before they hit the pharmacy shelf. Now, addressing the CDC, Palantir's history with the CDC first began with Tiberius, the COVID-19 vaccine tracking system. This has evolved into a permanent multi-agency data layer partnership. The CDC is using Palantir to integrate transactional health data with open source and private data sets. These data points specifically are electronic health records, insurance claims, pharmacies' prescriptions, lab results, everything in the public domain such as social media or news, and in private terms, data from distributors like Cardinal Health or wastewater of private utilities and mobile data from telecom companies, allowing the CDC to track who is sick, where, which drugs are being dispensed, and where the sickness is moving to. Foundry pulls these data streams into the public health ontology. The CDC has write-back power, meaning just off the machine's discretion, it will start moving stockpiles of ventilators or vaccines to the correct location before the crisis peaks. This is what's required for a final fusion. The AIP plugs in large language models into the truth of the state achieved from Titan, Foundry, Apollo, Gotham, and GAIA, as well as all the other smaller yet highly important pieces we have and haven't listed. It creates a reasoning engine that is immune to hallucinations that people typically experience with consumer AIs. Unlike a standard chatbot that basically guesses from the internet while trying to predict the next word, the AIP is tethered to the Foundry and GAIA data. When it speaks, it isn't predicting, it is querying the ontology, the truth. As of April 2026, AIP operates through AIP logic. It is a transparent chain of thought debugger. For every recommendation the machine gives, it presents a branching tree of its logic. The human can see exactly which sensor feed, which polymarket odd, and which Foundry record led to that conclusion. As we have briefly discussed before, with AIP logic it can edit the world. For example, let's say Magritte identifies a localized surge in queries in the port of Singapore. Thousands of truck drivers asking their LLMs about alternate routes and union strike protocols. AIP logic ingests this, cross-references it with a dip in the polymarket shipping odds, and concludes with high confidence that the port is effectively closed due to high traffic and human uncertainty. Previously, a human analyst would write a report, a commander would read it hours later, then they would manually update the shipping database. By then, a bunch of ships would have already been trapped into the bottleneck. But with AIP logic, it doesn't wait for the human, because it has transactional write-back authority to all systems connected to the AIP that we've listed in this video. It performs an edit. AIP reaches into the Foundry Ontology and changes the status of the Singapore port from operational to congested. Because the digital twin of Singapore has been edited at the source, every other system connected to the AIP instantly sees a new reality. Apollo instantly pushes a new mission set to cargo vessels hundreds of miles away, rerouting them to a different port in Malaysia. Titan units at the edge receive an updated threat map showing the port as a no-go zone. GAIA turns the port icon red on every commander's screen globally. The AI thought the port was essentially closed, and because it has full write-back and edit permissions, it edits the Foundry library and the port basically becomes closed to the entire global mesh. The digital mirror of the world changed, and the physical world followed suit. One of the final layers in the AIP is Agent Studio. The machines create sub-agents to act as hands of the state. These agents just aren't bots. They are autonomous functions that live within the Apollo system. They can be tasked to, for example, monitor a specific bottleneck. If it creates a delay exceeding 4 hours, it automatically reroutes convoy and notifies the regional commander. The machine has achieved total situational awareness. It can reason across the physical, physiological, and the probabilities simultaneously. It can calculate the future before the humans have even realized the move they're making. So, Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, known as the AIP, is where the crystal ball becomes real. The final form of the crystal ball, what seems to be the literal ball you can interact with, is Maven. The Maven smart system is the crown jewel of the government and the silicone spine. Its transition to a program of record signaled the end of the experimental era of military AI. It is now the official permanent interface of the American war machine. To explain the Maven system correctly, don't think of it as a weapon. Think of it as a universal translation layer for the entire planet. Let's explain. In a modern conflict, there are too many sensors for humans to watch. Maven uses AI to watch every satellite, every drone feed, every sensor at the same time. It flags anomalies, a truck moving at night, a new trench being dug, a hidden antenna. It reportedly has reduced the time to generate a target package, the data needed to authorize a strike, from hours to minutes. It identifies the target, verifies it against its rules, and presents the commander with a ready-to-fire solution. But Maven isn't just about blowing things up. In 2026, it is the engine of influence chain. By plugging the digital mirror of humans to the AIP, Maven can predict the consequences of a strike. It might tell a commander that striking this certain bridge will stop the tank, but it will cause a 70% spike in local insurgent recruitment. Then suggests to instead use a cyber intervention to disable the tank GPS instead. Maven is now infrastructure. It is a line item in the national budget. It can't be easily cancelled. Every new drone, satellite, or tank built from this day on must be Maven compatible. It is the OS of the Department of War. Everyone from a private in a Titan truck to the general in the Pentagon is looking at the same supposed truth. We have built the library, the nerves, the mind, but a crystal ball is useless if the image is blurry and separate. The Maven smart system is the lens that brings the entire world into focus. Maven is the interface where all the digital mirrors finally touch. That is the crystal ball. Through AIP logic, the state can now run synthetic histories before they happen. Someone can ask Maven, if we seize the port of Singapore tonight, what is the world's reaction in 72 hours? The AIP reaches into document intelligence to see how the world reacted to a similar crisis years before. It queries synthetic personas to model the local and world riot potential. It checks the poly market to see if money has already been priced into the move. In seconds, Maven displays the golden path, the one reality where the objective is met with the least resistance from both the physical and human terrains. The crystal ball does more than show the future. As we discussed, it authors it. It has transactional write-back power. Once the golden path is chosen, the AIP doesn't just send a memo, it goes back into Apollo, Foundry, Gotham, and Titan, and edits the ontology of the whole world. It updates the mission sets for every drone, changes the logistics for every truck, and shifts the entire global mesh. There is no longer reacting to the future. It writes the future into the ontology and forces the world to catch up. It is a true crystal ball, hence the name Palantir.
I'm just saying I have good sources that they wanted to build a giant artificial system, and Google believes that the first artificial intelligence will be a supercomputer based on the neuron activities of the hive mind of humanity, with billions of people wired into it with the Internet of Things. And so all of our thoughts go into it, and we're actually building a computer that has real neurons in real time that's also psychically connected to us, that are organic creatures, so that they will have current prediction powers, future prediction powers, a true crystal ball. But the big secret is, once you have a crystal ball and know the future, you can add stimuli beforehand and make decisions that control the future. And so then it's the end of consciousness and free will for individuals, as we know, and a true 2.0 in a very bad way, hive mind consciousness with an AI jacked into everyone, knowing our hopes and dreams, delivering it to us, not in some PKD wirehead system where we plug in and give up on consciousness because of unlimited pleasure, but because we were already wired in and absorbed before we knew it, by giving over our consciousness to this system by our daily decisions that it was able to manipulate and control into a larger system.
In the next video, we will be outlining the people responsible for this crystal ball and its origins. I think it will give a newer perspective on the current White House administration and its real goals, plus outlining them using the crystal ball already in the year 2025 and 2026. As well, if you would like a better visualization of Palantir's infrastructure with even more information, plus some spoilers for the next video, I suggest checking out my Excalidraw file, where I have connected many of the Palantir dots, so to speak. There is much in it that I haven't mentioned in this video, so if you'd like to check it out, go to the Google Drive link in this video, download the file, and open up excalidraw.com. You open that file on the website. This is not a sponsor. If you have any thoughts or questions, please comment them and like the video, as it helps greatly. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.